your identity, your identity in these ways with these like cards is sort of like a way of, regulating what gender is, and it's really intense. I mean, that's something that is like required of anyone who visits me in my hotel. You have to present a photo ID, a current valid state photo ID, and then other regulations are so I can like have like only 2 guests in my room at any time, and then there's like a guest curfew. I can't have any people come over my house after 10 unless they've signed in before. The kitchen closes at 11. I'm only allowed, I think 10 overnight guests a month. And so there's like all these different things. Now it's like residence hotels have been, sort of happening for a while. San Francisco has, there's like this history of like a problem with, crime and all kinds of crazy things, allegedly happening inside these hotels. And so what's happened in San Francisco is that sort of activists, this is sort of like an example of like a reform that people worked for, activists and hotel owners sort of came together with a compromise and developed this document that's called the Uniform Visitor Policy, which sort of like puts all these different things like down, like, makes them into these rules that all hotels more or less follow. And so it's really interesting because those are the things that sort of create, and they're not completely irrational, it's like, I'm the only person I know who has to live this way, and it isn't like it necessarily changes things, and it's trying to sort of create a pervasive attitude that sort of I try to write about in my piece. Is actually very difficult to write about because this sort of sense of hopelessness that everyone has because of the extent of the institutionalization. And so again, I wanted to sort of like talk about ableism because I feel that like when a lot of times when people are trying to organize in the street, or they're sort of envisioning of who is going to be participating in certain actions and so forth, and like who is it for and stuff, isn't necessarily reflective of like folks in my building. Like I can't really imagine a lot of people in my building wanting to be out doing that. But it's not to say those things aren't useful, but I think that what my piece is sort of like an indictment of this sort of ableist tendency and a call to action. Like if we're actually going to be seriously thinking about trying to create alternatives to the prison industrial complex, we need to be thinking about how it is that we're going to create communities that are sustainable and can include all these different things. Like we need to sort of problematize what we think a prison is, and like sort of how these different things sort of like pervade society and aren't just localized in these specific sites. Like my hotel would be considered such a site, I feel. And so I spent a lot of time in the piece sort of talking about this sort of extent of institutionalization. For example, like the difficulties that I face with trying to organize my building is that like a lot of folks, will have like legitimate, grievances, but because of, a lot of folks, my housing specifically is for folks who are formerly homeless. Kind of having Section 8 and kind of being in this hotel is kind of like this, it's like they're incredibly fortunate in this fucked up way to actually be able to have it, and so there's this sense that they don't want to do anything to like mess with that. And what I found in like sort of coming in like as this anarchist and being like trying to clear the space that I'm in, and like dreaming of some sort of like land struggle sort of situation where we like would own the building and we would all like be a cooperative and stuff, and it's like people are just like not on the same page as that, like they're not really they're not even